Epilogue. Bill Deprogue beats the devil the second. I knew the bride when she used to do the pony. I knew the bride when she used to do the stroll. I knew the bride when she used to want to party. I knew the bride when she used to rock and roll. By Nick Love. You can't be careful on a skateboard, man. By some kid. 1. Noon of the summer day. Bill stood naked in Mike Hanlon's bedroom, looking at his lean body in the mirror on the door. His bald head gleamed in the light, which fell through the window and cast a shadow along the floor and up the wall. His chest was hairless, his thighs and shanks skinny but overlaid with ropes of muscle. Still, he fought. It's an adult's body. We got here, no question about that. There's the pot belly that comes with a few too many good steaks, a few too many bottles of Kern beer, a few too many poolside lunches where you had the Rune or the French dip instead of the diet plate. Your seats drop too. Bill, old buddy, you can still serve an ace if you're not too hunged over and if your eyes in. But you can't hustle after the old dump lop the way you could when you were 17. You got love handles, and your balls are starting to get that middle-aged dangly look. There's lines on your face that weren't there when you were 17. Hell, they weren't there on your first utter photo, the one where you tried so hard to look as if you knew something, anything. You're too old for what you've got in mind, Billy boy. You'll kill both of you. He put on his underpants. If we'd believed that, we never could have done whatever it was we did. But we didn't really remember what it was then had done, or what had happened to turn Audra into a catatonic wreck. He only knew what he was supposed to do now, and he knew that if he didn't do it now, he would forget that too. Audra was sitting downstairs in Mike's easy chair, her hair hanging lamely to her shoulder, staring with rapt attention at the TV, which was certainly showing Dial In for Dollars. She didn't speak and would only move if you let her. This is different. You're just too old, man. Believe it. I won't. Then die here in Derry. Big fucking deal. He put on anaphylactic socks, the one pair of jeans he had brought, the tank top he'd brought at the shirt sack in Bangor the day before. The tank was bright orange across the front. It said, "Where the hell is Derry, Maine?" He sat down on Mike's bed, the one he had shared for the last week of nights with his warm but corpse-like wife, and put on his sneakers, a pair of Keds, which had also brought yesterday in Bangor. He stood up and looked at himself in the mirror again. He saw a man pressing middle age, dressed up in a kid's clothes. "You look ludicrous." "What kid doesn't?" "You're no kid. Give this up." "Fuck, let's rock and roll a little," Bill said softly, and left the room. 2. In the dreams he will have in later years, he is always leaving Derry alone at sunset. The town is deserted. Everyone has left. The theological seminary and the Victorian houses on West Broadway brood black against a lurid sky. Every summer sunset you ever saw rolled up into one. He could hear his footfalls echoing back as they rapped along the concerts. The only other sound is water rushing hallowing through the storm drains. 3. He rolled Silver out into the driveway, put him on the kickstand, and checked the tires again. The front one was okay, but the back one felt a little mushy. He got the bike pump that Mike had brought and firmed it up. When he put the pump back, he checked the playing cards and the clothespins. The bike's wheels still made those exciting machine gun sounds Bill remembered from his boyhood. "Good deal. You've gone crazy. Maybe. We'll see." He went back into Mike's garage again, got the 3-in-1, and oiled the chain and sprocket. Then he stood up, looked at Silver, and gave the bulb of the oog horn a light, experimental squeeze. It sounded good. He nodded and went into the house. 4. And he sees all those places again, intact as they were then. The Holken bricks fort of Derry Elementary, the Kissin Bridge with its complex identical of International. High school sweethearts ready to crack the world open with their weight waitresses and Benanonics. He sees the state of Paul Bunyan against that bleeding sunset sky and the leaning white fence which ran along the Kansas Street sidewalk at the edge of the barrens. He sees them as they were, as they always will be in some part of his mind, and his heart breaks with love and horror. Leaving Derry, he thinks. We are leaving Derry, and if this was a story, it would be the last half dozen pages or so. Get ready to put this one up on the shelf and forget it. The sun's going down, and there's no sound but my footballs and the water in the drains. This is the time of 5. Dialing for dollars had given way to Wheel of Fortune, and Audra sat passively in front of it, her eyes never leaving the set. Her demeanor did not change when Bill snapped the TV off. Audra, he said, going to her and taking her hand. Come on. She didn't move. Her hand lay in his warm wax. Bill tucked her other hand from the arm of Mike's chair and pulled her to her feet. He had dressed her that morning, much as he had dressed himself. She was wearing Levis and the blue shell top. She would have looked quite lovely if not for her wide-eyed, vacant stare. Come on, he said again, and led her, though, through the door, into Mike's kitchen, and eventually outside. She came willingly enough, although she would have plugged off the back porch, stooped, and gone sprawling in the dirt, if Bill had not put an arm around her waist and gliding her down the steps. He led her over to where Silver stood heeled over on his kickstand in the bright summer noonlight. Audra stood beside the bike, looking cernently at the side of Mike's garage. Get on, Audra. She didn't move. Patiently, Bill worked at getting her to swing one of her long legs over the carrier mounted on Silver's back fender. At last, she stood there with the package carrier between her legs, not quite touching her crouch. Bill pressed his hands lightly to the top of her head, and Audra sat down. He swung onto Silver's saddle and put up the kickstand with his heel. He prepared to reach behind him for Audra's hand and draw them around his middle, but before he could do it, they crept around him of their own accord, like some small dazed mice. He looked down at them, his heart beating faster, seemed to pump in his throat as much as he in his chest. It was the first independent action Audra had taken all week, so far as he knew. The first independent action she had taken since it happened, whenever it had been. Audra? There was no answer. He tried to crane his neck around and see her, but couldn't quite make it. There were only her hands around his waist, the nails showing the last chips of a red polish that had been put on by a bright, living talent, young woman in a small English town. We're going for a ride, Bill said, and he began to roll Silver towards Palmer Lane, listening to the gravel church under the tires. I want you to hold on, Audra. I think I may go sort of fast, if I don't lose my guts. He thought of the kid he had met earlier during his stay in Derry, when it had still been happening. You can't be careful on a skateboard, the kid had said. Turner words were never spoken, kid. Audra, are you ready? No answer. Had her hands tightened the thinnest bit across his middle? Probably just wistful thinking. He reached the end of the driveway and looked right. Palmer Lane ran straight to Upper Main Street, where a left turn would take him onto the hill running downtown. Downhill, picking up speed. He felt a tremor of fear at the image and a disquiet thought. Old bones, break easy, Billy boy. Ran, though, his mind almost too quickly to read, and was gone. But it was all disquiet, was it? No, it was desire as well. The feeling he saw the kid walking along with the skateboard under his arms. The desire to go fast, to feel the wind race past you without knowing if you were racing towards or running away from, to just go, to fly. This quiet desire, all the difference between world and what the difference between being an adult who counted the cost and a child who just got on it and went for instance, all the world between. Yet not that much difference at all. Bad fellows, really, the way you felt when the roller coaster car approached the top of the first steep grade, where the ride really begins. Disquiet and desire, what you want and what you're scared to try for. where you've been and where you want to go. Something in a rock and roll song about wanting the girl, the car, the place to stand and be. Oh, please, God, you can dig it. Bill closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the sore dead weight of his wife behind him, feeling the hill somewhere ahead of him, feeling his own heart inside him. Be brave, be true. Stand. He began to push Silver forward again. You want to rock and roll a little, Audra? No. Answer. But that was all right. He was ready. Hold on then. He began to pedal. It was hard going at first. Silver wobbled alarmedly back and forth. Audra's weight added to an emplacement. Yet, she must be doing some balance. Even unconsciously, or they would have crashed right away. Bill stood on the pedals, hands squeezing the handle grips with maniacal tightness. His hands turned skyward, his eyes slits, the cords on his neck standing out. Gonna fall splat right here in the street, split her skull and mine. No, you ain't. Go for it, Bill. Go for it. Go for the son of a bitch. He stood on the pedals, revolving them, feeling every cigarette he smoked over the last 20 years, and his elevated blood pressure and his race of his hearts. Fuck that, too! He fought, and the rush of crazy exploration made him grin. The playing cards, which had been firing isolating shots, now began to clock faster. They were nice new bikes, and they made a good, loud sound. Bill felt the first touch of breeze on his bald pate, and his grin widened. I made that breeze, he thought. I made it by pumping these damn pedals. The stop sign at the end of the lane was coming up. Bill began to brake, and then his grin still widened, showing more and more of his teeth. He began to pump up again. Ignoring the stop sign, Bill Deprog went to the left, onto Upper Main Street above Basie Park. Again, Audra's weight fooled him, and they almost overbalanced and crashed. The bike wavered, wobbled, then right itself. That breeze was stronger, now cooling, the sweat on his forehead, evaporating it, rushing past his ears with a low, intoxicating sound that was a little like the sound of an ocean and caught shell, but was really like nothing else on earth. Bill supposed it was a sound the kind with the skateboard were familiar with. But it's a sound you'll fall out of touch with, kid. He thought things have a way of changing. It's a dirty trick. So he prepared for it, pedaling faster now, finding a surer balance and speed. The ruins of Paul Bunyan on the left. Like a fallen colossus, Bill shouted, "Hi, yo, Silver! Away!" Audra's hands tightened around his middle. He felt her stir against his back, but there was no urge to turn and try to see her now. No urge, no need. He pedaled faster, laughing out loud. A tall, skinny, bald man on a bike crouched over the handlebars to lessen the wide Wynn residence. People turned to look as he raced alongside Bassin Park, now Upper Main Street, began to incline towards the caved-in center of town of a steeper angle, and a voice inside whispered to him that if he didn't brake soon, he would find himself unable. He would simply go sweeping into the sunken remains of the freeway intersection like a bat out of hell, and killed both of them. Instead of bacon, he began to pedal again, urging the bike to go even faster. Now he was flying down Main Street Hill, and he could see the white and orange crash barriers and the smudge pots with their smoky Halloween flames marking the edge of the cave-in. He could see the tops of buildings which jutted out of the streets like the figments of a madman's imagination. "Hi, yo, Silver! Away!" Bill Deprog cried deliciously and rushed down the hill towards whatever there would be, aware for one last time of Derry at his place, aware most of all that he was alive, under a real sky, and that all was desire. He raced down the hill on Silver. He raced to beat the devil. Sex. Leaving. So you leave, and there is an urge to look back just once as the sunset fades, to see that the serves New England skyline one final time, the spires, the standpipe, Paul with his axe slung over his shoulder, but it is perhaps not such a good idea to look back. All the stories say so. Look what happened to Lot's wife. Best not to look back. Best to believe there will be happily ever afters all the way around. And so there may be who he is to say there will not be such endings. Not all boats which sail away into darkness never find the sun again, or the hand of utter child. If the life teaches anything at all, it teaches that there are so many happy endings, that the man who believes there is no God needs his rational called into serious questions. You leave and you leave quick when the sun starts to go down. He thinks this dream. That's what you do. And if you spare a last thought, maybe it's ghosts you wonder about. The ghosts of children standing in the water at sunset, standing in a circle, standing with their hands joined together, their faces young, sure, but tough enough anyway to give birth to the people they will become. Though tough enough to understand maybe that the people they will become must necessarily birth the people they were before they can get on with trying to understand simple mortality. The circle closes, the wheel rolls, and that's all there is. You don't have to look back to see those children. Part of your mind will see them forever, live with them forever, love with them forever. They are necessarily the best part of you, but they were once the repository of all you could become. Children, I love you. I love you so much. So drive away, quick. Drive away while the last of the light slips away. Drive away from dairy, from memory, but not from desire that stays the bright cameo of all we were and all we believed as children, all that shone in our eyes, even when we were lost and the wind blew in the night. Drive away and try to keep smiling. Get a little rock and roll on the radio and go towards all the life there is with all the courage you can find and all the belief you can muster. Be true. Be brave. Stand. All the rest is darkness. 7. Hey, mister, you, look out. Dam's fool's gonna. Words whipped by the slipstream, as meaningless as peanuts and breezed or untethered balloons. Here came the crash, barriers. He could smell the smoothie aroma of kerosene from the smudged pots. He saw the yawning darkness where the streets had been, heard sullen water rushing down there in the tangled darkness, and laughed at the sound. He dragged Silver hard, left, so close to the crashed barriers, now that the leg of his jeans actually whispered along one of them. Silver's wheels were less than 3 inches from the place where the tar ended in empty space, and he was running out of memory room. Up ahead, the water had irrigated all of the street and half the sidewalk in front of Cash's jewelry store. Barriers closed off what was left on the sidewalk. It had been several undercut. Bill? It was Audra's voice, dazed a little thick. She sounded as if she had just awakened from a deep sleep. Bill, where are we? What are we doing? Hi, yo, Silver! Bill shouted, pointing the Russian Garrington that was Silver at the crashed barrier, jutting out of at right angles to the empty cash show window. Hi, yo, Silver! Away! Silver struck the barrier at better than 40 miles an hour, and it went flying the center board in one direction, the A-shaped supports in 2 others. Audra cried out and squeezed Bill so tightly that he lost his breath. Up and down Main Street, Canal Street, and Kansas Street, people stood in doorways and on sidewalks, watching Silver shout out onto the bridge of undercut sidewalk. Bill felt his left hip and knee chipped the side of the jewelry store. He felt Silver's rear wheel stag suddenly and understood that the sidewalk was fallen in behind them. And then Silver's forward motion carried them back onto solid roadway. Bill swerved to avoid an overturned trash can and bellowed out into the street again. Brakes squealed. He saw the grille of a big truck approaching and still couldn't seem to stop laughing. He ran through the space the heavy truck wound up a copinade in a full second before it got there. Shit, time to spare. Yelling, tears squirted from his eyes. Bill blew Silver's oogin and horn, listening to each hoarse bray embed itself in the day's bright light. Bill, you're going to kill us both, Audra cried out, and although there was terror in her voice, she was also laughing. Bill heeled Silver over, and this time he felt Audra leaning with him, making the bike easier to control, helping to make the two of them exist with it, at least for this small compact moment of them, as free living things. Do you think so? He shouted back. I know so, she cried, and then grabbed his crotch, where there was a huge and cheerful erection. But don't stop. He had nothing to say about it. However, Silver's speed was bleeding away on Up Mile Hill, the heavy roar of the playing cards becoming single gunshots. Again, Bill stopped and turned to her. She was pale, wide-eyed, obviously scared and confused, but awakened, aware, and laughing. Audra, he said, laughing with her. He helped her off. Silver leaned the bike against a handy brick wall, embraced her. He kissed her forehead, her eyes, her cheeks, her mouth, her neck, her breasts. She hugged him while it did it. Bill, what's been happening? I remember getting off the plane at Bangor, and I can't remember a thing after that. Are you all right? Yes. Am I? Yes. No. She pushed him away so she could look at him. Bill, are you still stuttering? No, Bill said and kissed her. My stutter is gone. For good? Yes, he said. I think this time it's gone for good. Did you say something about rock and roll? I don't know. Did I? I love you, she said. He nodded and smiled. When he smiled, he looked very young, bald, head or not. I love you too, he said. And what else counts? 8. He awakens from this dream, unable to remember exactly what it was, or much at all beyond the simple fact that he has dreamed about being a child again. He touches his wife's smooth back as he slept her warm sleep and dreams her own dreams. He thinks that it is good to be a child, but it was also good to be a grown-up and able to consider the mystery of childhood, its beliefs and desires. I will write about all of this one day, he thinks. And no, it's just a dawn thought, an after dreaming thought, but it's nice to think so for a while in the mornings, clean slices, to think that childhood has its own street secrets and comforts, mortality, and that mortality defines all courage and love, to think that what has looked forward must also look back, and that each life makes its own imitation of immortality, a wheel. Or so Bill Deprogue sometimes thinks in those early mornings after dreaming, when he almost remembers his childhood and the friends he shared it. The end. About the author. Stephen King is the author of more than 50 books, all of them worldwide bestsellers. His recent work includes the Bill Hodges trilogy, Mr. Murchison's an Edgar Award winner for Best Novels, Finders Keepers, and The End of Watch, and the story collections of The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. His epic series, The Dark Tower, is a bastion for a major motion picture starring Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. King is the recipient of the 2014 National Medal of Arts and the 2003 National Book Foundation Medal of Distinction Combination. To American Letters, he and his son, Owen King, contributed a novel called Sleeping Beauties. He lives in Bangor, Maine with his wife, the novelist, best-selling female novelist, Tabitha King. This book was begun on Bangor, Maine on September 9th, 1981, and it was completed in Bangor, Maine on December 28th, 1985, and it was published during September 1986 and read by Joseph Alana. He started this book on December 25th, 2024, and ended it on March 19th, 2025. Thank you.